Welcome to NFL World, where NFL starts and ends. I'm your host, Jacob, and welcome to the NFL Dream. So, we are now with the Denver Broncos, and I'm looking through their free agency of what they did, how did they go, and what are the additions they made. So, the free agent signings they got: Evan Ingram, the tight end, played in Jacksonville for the last couple years, signed a 2-year deal, $23 million. $16.5 million guaranteed. Trent Sherfield, Dre Greenlaw, and I always pronounce his name wrong, so I apologize. Talanoa Hufanga. Both Greenlaw and Hufanga were from the 49ers. They all signed with the Broncos. That was the new signings. That's how they describe it here. Re-signings were Jarrett Stidham, Mitchell Boy, DJ Jones, Matt Pete, Justin Strawn, Michael Burt in the fullback, Jaquan McMillan, the corner, Lucas Cool, the tight end, Dondra Tillman, outside linebacker, Jordan Jackson, defensive lineman, Devon Key, defensive back. So they made some moves. They also made, as it says here, additional to this, they made 15 undrafted. They had signed 15 undrafted free agents, including Xavier Truss, Johnny Walker, and Clay Webb. So there's some moves that were made here that you have to admire. There was a lot. Several, as we'll get into that a little bit later, there were several players that were no longer on the team because they left in free agency or traded in some way. In that draft, they had quite a few picks. They had 2/3, they had a 4th, they didn't have a 5th, they had a 6th and a 7th. So they went 1 first round, 2nd round, 2/3, a 4th, a 6th, and a 7th. The first round pick, Jahdae Barrett, cornerback out of Texas. I love this pick. Maxwell Harrison and Jahdae Barrett were probably the best corners in the draft, and would have been the top rated corner. It would have been top rated corners, but they would have also been gone a lot earlier than they actually did. They went so low in the first round because their size. They're slot corners only, and they're small. And for whatever reason, teams are terrified of smaller corners. Not just smaller slot corners, smaller corners. Because this whole logic of you got to be 6'4", you got to have a long wingspan, you got to do that. Get the best player. Screw the wingspan, screw the height, who cares? Get the best player. The best player were Maxwell Harrison and Jahdae Barrett. That was who it was. And so Denver nailed that pick. Pairing him with McMillan and Surtain, that's going to be a great pick for them. And I like how they bolstered this defense for the Denver Broncos. Round 2, R.J. Harvey, the running back. Older guy. He's a little older. But at UCF, he was really good. And talk about, like, they had a running back by committee like no one could believe last year. And bringing in R.J. Harvey, who can kind of be a change of pace guy anyway, because he looks big, but he actually moves very well. So that's a good thing. The interesting part is where he got drafted. He got drafted in the 2nd round because he had the first round pedigree. He got drafted in the 2nd round because of his age. He's an older prospect. So teams are not likely to go and spend a higher draft pick on someone who is an older guy. It's just not going to happen. If I can get a guy who's, even if he's only half as good as you, but he's like 3 years younger than you, that's a big deal in sports circles for whatever reason. The 3rd round pick was Pat Bryant, the wide receiver at Illinois. I don't have a lot of information on Pat Bryant, but I can tell you is They want to help this wide receiver room. They need wide receiver help so badly because they can run the ball. They can. They got to be better in the receiver game. Once they figure that out, they were the 7th seed last year in the playoffs. Get an extra wide receiver, help Cortland Sutton out on a consistent basis, and it will work out just fine. And they think Pat Bryant can do that. Another third round pick, number 101 overall. I'm going to butcher this name and I apologize. Say Vion, not Vion. I think it's supposed to be Vion, but they spell it like Vion. But Savion Jones, the edge rusher out of LSU. You know, you get to the third round, and those are players that are okay. You know, we're still sticking with our board pretty much. But we're surprised if someone falls. Jones was a guy who he was just there. That was what he was. He was right there. Let's go get him. So that's what they did. It's a good pick. They needed some edge rusher help with some of the losses in free agency, which we'll get to momentarily. In the fourth round, Q Robinson, the outside linebacker from Alabama. Look, in the Vance Joseph system, that outside linebacker has to cover, he has to blitz, he has to be anything that they need him to be. So it benefits him to get a guy who can rush the passer, who can go out in coverage a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. You know, he's not a strong safety who's going to deliver the boom. He's not a free safety who's going to be able to roam it back there. He's a linebacker. He's just get your big paw out there and make a play. And that's what you do when you get a guy like this. Round 6, we got a punter, Jeremy Crenshaw, the punter from Florida. Look, 6th round, I'm not going to be too mad at you drafting a special teamer. I wouldn't do it. To me, you can easily get a good special teamer who's an undrafted player or who was not on a team currently or was cut after the draft. You can always do that, in my opinion. So drafting a punter, I don't quite understand. Similar to drafting a kicker or a long snapper, I don't understand it. Round 7, Caleb Lohner, the tight end from Utah. 241 in the 7th round. Like, that's it. That's where you are. 7th round picks, it's okay, just like we said about 6th round picks before, it's throwing a dart at the board. It's seeing who it hits, and we're taking that play. That's pretty much what you do. You'll hope for rounds 1, 2, 3, and even 4, you have really good understanding of what they can do. 5 and even 6, you're like, okay, maybe, we're not 100% sure. Round 7, it's throw this dart at the board and see what it hits. And that's what they did. It landed on the tight end from Utah. Who did the Broncos lose in free agency? Well, Javonte Williams was a key departure. He signed with the Cowboys, 1-year deal, very little money. He wasn't going to be brought back. He just wasn't as good coming back from the injury. And he signed for very little money. So there was not really many offers for him. Cody Barton, the linebacker, signed with the Tennessee Titans on a 3-year deal. No word on the actual number he got. Trayman Smith was a key special teamer with the team. Now he's in Houston on a 2-year deal. I would assume it's for very little money. Special teamers don't make a lot. Riley Dixon, who was the punter, he went to Tampa Bay on a 3-year deal. So that's why you drafted a punter. Again, still wouldn't do it, but that was the reason of why. Zach Wilson, obviously of them all, being the quarterback for the New York Jets for a couple years, signed with them as a free agent, as a backup in case something happened to Bo Nix. And then now is in Miami on a 1-year deal. Again, very little guaranteed money. You're not expecting much. Now, in 2024, you're the third in your standings at 10-7. You were a game back. You won 58% of your games. You were 6-2 at home. You were 4-5 on the road. You won your last game. You were not. No team is good on the road. Nobody is good on the road. But if you're 4-5, okay, it's shaky. And they were 6-2 at home, so they were really good at home. They just, you just fell a little short on that. So there's concerns for sure about their standings, but if you look at their schedule, and let me pull it up on ESPN real quick. ESPN.com has it all sorted. Here we go. Home for Tennessee, week 1. At Indianapolis, at Los Angeles against the Chargers in weeks 2 and 3 respectively, both in the 4 o'clock window. Home for Cincinnati, that's a Monday nighter. At Philadelphia. Home for the Jets in week 6. Giants in week 7, they're home as well. Home for the Cowboys, they have a 3-game homestand before they go to Houston. They're going on the road to Houston. That's a Thursday night game. Then they are home for the Raiders in week 10. Home for the Chiefs in week 11. Bye week 12. So it's late, but it's okay for it to be a little late because when you get to that point, you're in late November anyway. You're in good position for these guys to come back. Who were injured, they could come back and only have to play really in December. November 30th, they're at Washington, which is a Sunday. That's week 13. Week 14, they're home for the Raiders. They're on the road against the Raiders, They're at the Raiders. Home for Green Bay, so they don't have to play in Green Bay. Home for Jacksonville, so they don't have to go to Jacksonville. At Kansas City on December 25th. That's one that you have to circle in many ways. That's going to be, I think, a big game for the Broncos, and they got to find a way to play and win it in Kansas City. And then they are home to finish the year at home for the Chargers. So that's a good schedule. So what's my record for them? Well, they went 10-7 last year. I think Tennessee will be better, but I don't think they'll be great week 1. I think Indianapolis is going to be interesting to watch. Chargers, I think they split. Kansas City, I think they split. I think they double up on the Jets and Giants. Cincinnati early, it's weird. They don't play very good in September, so you could get that. I think really the games that are going to be difficult are Eagles, Cowboys, Packers, obviously Chiefs and Commanders. So I'm going to say they're going to go 11-6 just because Cincinnati's tough. Cowboys are going to be somewhat tough. The Eagles are tough, especially if you have to go to Philadelphia. Washington, I think it's going to be hard for them to win that. Kansas City and Green Bay are the last two. Green Bay and Kansas City. And so there's a lot going here. But I got 6. So I think this is going to be really fun. But I got them going 11-6. But let me know in the comments what's the record that Denver Broncos will be in 2025. I think 11-6 is very likely. And bonix will have a better year than his rookie year. For NFL World, I'm Jacob Hebert. Out.